Hello, everybody. How we doing?
Good.
Good.
Excellent. So let's choose San Francisco. Okay. So let's go into the portion of this week, the portion of Yitro, Jethro. So Jethro is the father-in-law of Moses, and like every good father-in-law, he's coming to his son-in-law to tell him what to do, which sounds very familiar with what's happening today, right? So, וישמע יתרו כהן מדיין חותן משה את כל אשר עשה וגומר. And so Jethro, who is the father of Tzipporah, Kohen Midian, so he's a high priest of Egypt. Choten Moshe, so he's the father-in-law of Moses, and Kol Asher Asayin. So he heard everything that that Moses did, or everything that was done through Moses. רבי חזקיה פתח ואמר, וישא אהרון את ידיו, כתיב ידיו חד, בגין דבעל הרמה ימינה, על שמאלה והא וכמנה רזה. So I just read the part from the Aramaic. The Aramaic is different from the Hebrew. That's the language that was, first of all, the language of the Zohar, but it's a dead language that was used back then 2,000 years ago. It's one discussion between Rabbi Shimon and the students, וישא אהרון את ידיו. And so it speaks about the brother of Moses, that is raising his hands. וישא אהרון את ידיו. כתוב ידו חסד יוד. And so ידיו, so he raises his hand. It's going to say soon the right over the left, and we're going to understand what that means. And it says, Yado Chesed Yud. And so we know that the subtlety of the Hebrew always conceals deeper secrets. And so when he discusses, hi baby. So she did it on purpose. That's cute. So she told her not to come because I'm teaching a class. So she's very naughty, my daughter, my 18 months daughter. And so she does exactly the opposite of what her mother says. So surely enough, if she's going to say, don't go disturb Abba is teaching a class, she's going to come and disturb Abba teaching a class. Oh, by the way, she's Gemini, so like me. So anyway, וישא אהרון את ידיו, כתוב ידיו חסד יוד. And so Yadav, which is, so we were talking about the subtlety of the Hebrew, because Yadav or Yado, like his hands or his hand, is Yud Dalet Vav. Okay, and if you take the same letters, and instead of writing Yud Dalet Vav and you write Yud Vav Dalet, it spells out the letter Yud, which is Yud Vav Dalet. And so here it takes Katuv Yado Chesed Yud. And so the Chesed Yud is the mercy that emanates from the letter Yud. Shemashmaut yad achat. And so the meaning of it is of one hand. והוא משום שצריך להרים הימין על השמאל. And the meaning of it is that we need to raise the hand, שצריך להרים, so we need to raise the right hand over the left. So we've heard it in different perspectives or teachings. For example, when we raise our hands in potech et yadecha, so when we open our hands in the blessings after the meal, for example, or in the prayer in the morning or whatnot. So we open our hands, and physically it is recommended to raise the right hand above the left. And so I don't know if you guys doing it, but to always consciously have the right hand slightly above the left. Why? Because physical actions awaken spiritual ones. And so when we are putting the right, which is the energy of chesed, chesed is the definition of the energy of mercy. So we're not only talking about the sphira or the dimension from the tree of life of chesed, mercy, we're talking about the awakening of that energy into our lives. So how does it play out? So if somebody is like teasing us or upsetting us or nagging us, aggravating us, we wish that we could recenter and phase out of our reactivity or our reaction and just find our calm. But in order to find our calm and not react, we need to have some bank of energy available inside of us of mercy. Because if we don't have enough bank of energy, enough energy into our spiritual, energetical bank account of mercy, then all we find is that we get easily triggered, that we get easily hurt, that we get easily to judge a certain situation or an individual. So when we're talking about, the whole aspect of raising the hand or about chesed, so this is what it means. So when we are discussing chesed, we're connecting to chesed. We're connecting to chesed so that we can replenish that vessel of ours with the ever lacking energy of mercy. How do we know that we're lacking the energy of mercy? Is that we basically still get upset and reactive. If we were overflowing with the energy of mercy, it doesn't matter what the universe or people would bring at me, I wouldn't get reactive because I would always find my calm and I would always find reasons to justify why somebody is doing something like that. By the way, when I'm full of mercy, that's the days that I'm waking up on the right foot or the right side of the bed, however the expression is. And doesn't matter what happens on that day, like somebody's upsetting me or somebody's cutting me off on the street or somebody's spitting his coffee on me. And I'm like, don't worry, it happens to everybody. Oh, don't worry, cut me off. Oh, you must have a bad day or he's in a rush. Or like we justify. This is why we say a tzaddik, why, by the way, the tzaddik is called a tzaddik because it comes from the word matzdik. Matzdik, which means to justify. He justifies the creator. He justifies the creator that is inside each and every single one of us, meaning that we are always apologizing for somebody's bad behavior, right? And so you can have like somebody you can call him like him or her, like the devil's advocate. The devil's advocate is that no matter what this person, who can be like the most evil person that you know, and then your spouse or your child or your neighbor or your best friend is just going to always make excuses for this person. And you don't understand, like you want to judge the person. You're full of judgment. You actually want to judge this person, but this person is full of mercy. So we don't see it like full of mercy, but this is what it is. That's the difference between the energy of mercy and the energy of judgment. And we can see the contrast when we wake up not so energetic and not so in the right side of the bed or something like that, or whatever the expression. And that's the Murphy's Law. It doesn't matter what it's going to happen on that day. It's going to annoy me. It's going to upset me. And it can be like the smallest thing. I woke up this morning this way. My wife actually, I got like an earful earlier. But I woke up this morning. Why? Because I couldn't sleep. Like 4:30 in the morning, I couldn't sleep. I woke up like from the baby was crying, whatever. And then my night was done. I couldn't sleep anymore. And then my ears are buzzing and my head is like very lightheaded. And like I was like, like all that all together made me very irritated or irritable or whatever the expression is. Irritated and irritable, both of them. I was irritating others and I was getting irritated. And so there are days like this that we wake up on the side of judgment, and there are days that we wake up on the side of mercy. And we can tell which energy we are phasing into. We're tuned in, we're connecting to. Okay, so the question is, what kind of a control do I have? What kind of a control do I have to one day wake up this way and the other day to wake up? Like we have zero control. Tomorrow it's going to be like a surprise. It's like we're almost like bipolars. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow and how I'm going to wake up and what kind of a mood I'm going to be, right? Like we can think in this way. Doesn't sound very sane, but anyway. But we need to know that we have some level of control, at least the more or to the extent that we're conscious of those decisions and the thoughts and the emotions and the intention that I'm putting into things, such as what we're doing right now, that I have the power to put mercy above judgment. And it starts with something as small as raising his hand and making sure that it's going to be like the right hand, that it's going to be above the left. All that from 5 words, yes? 20 minutes discussion. והוא משום שצריך להרים הימין על השמאל, and so that's the explanation of raising the right above the left. וכבר ביארנו את הסוד, we already discussed that. מצאתי בספר של שלמה המלך, and so it was found in the book of King Solomon, שכל מי שמרים ידיו למעלה, whoever raises his hand up, then בתפילות ובקשות, and they are not in prayers and spiritual asking, זהו אדם שנתקלל במעשרה שליטים. And so he's putting himself at the mercy of, other entities than positive angels. So what is the meaning of that? The meaning of that is that if a person is not raising his hands, or in other words, doing actions that are going to be elevated with spiritual meaning, that is going to be for the sake of improving people's life, improving humanity, etc., then we can call it like when somebody is like, using his speech. So you can have somebody who is like a very good with sales or, good with words or convincing, inspiring, teaching or whatnot. And he can use his power of words, for what we call ruach shtut. What is ruach shtut? It's wasted wind. It's like, right? Like we use the words that are just as like a wasted air that comes out of our mouth. And we need to know that, we can translate it to the way that we want, and each person has his own interpretation, but our words are counted in a way. They're not counted if we speak spiritual things, if we speak for the sake of raising sparks, raising consciousness, mine or the people around me. Those words are never counted. That you say a prayer or a meditation, or you pray for someone, or you send healing, or you do any type of spiritual work, or Reiki, Theta healing, any type of spiritual work, those words are not counted, literally and also in an abstract way. But then if we're using our words for nonsense, and we have to be honest, most of the day, we're not spending most of our words on raising consciousness. Think about it. Like, look at your day, what you have used. Like, if you were to count, to keep count of all the words, okay, I spend this word towards this, and I spend these words toward that. You spoke to your girlfriend, you spoke to your neighbor, you spoke to your son, you spoke to your spouse. How many out of those words were words that were dedicated to elevating consciousness? So I'm not saying everybody is in my case, that most of the time I'm not using my words to raise consciousness. I'm doing my best, when it comes to moments like this that I teach from the Zohar. I hope that those words are actually raising consciousness. But when I'm not doing that, I'm dealing with all the type of works that I'm tasked to do, and they're not exactly raising consciousness. We can, always, convince ourselves that we are not, and the more spiritual we become, and the more apologetic we become about the things, the actions, and the words, and the consciousness that we have, that it is always the right thing to do. Even the Nazis, sorry, I'm taking this example, but it just came to my mind, they were apologetic about the actions that they were doing. And I'm sure that ISIS themselves were taking the actions that they were doing, and they found something holy in it, right? So it's really interesting that no matter what position you're finding yourself, it's just a matter of time. Even if at the beginning there was like a sense of genuine impulse or initiative, it's just a matter of time until the opponent or the other side comes and bigots, or like tricks our mind into making our actions much less than what they could be. So we just want to keep in mind that if in the moment that I'm doing the action, if in the moment that I'm speaking those words, I'm not injecting the consciousness for the sake of raising your consciousness, my consciousness, it doesn't do anything. So it means that I could go and teach like a 150,000 Kabbalah 1. At the very beginning, I remember I was like very nervous, and I was like, super nervous. And I'm sure that I was revealing much more light in my first Kabbalah 1s, that I was like sweating from nervousness, than the ones that, that now I could teach Kabbalah 1 and I'm mastering it, or I'm doing better. Let's call it this way. And so that needs to always be like the consistent question. How much light am I revealing in this time, in this moment? And so when it says, from Shlomo HaMelech, like the King Solomon, is saying something like so heavy, like if you're raising your hands and it's not for the sake of prayer or intention, it is basically wasted into the other side. What's the other side? So he speaks very, I don't always translate because it can be like scary at some time. שבכל מי שמרים ידיו למעלה ואין הן בתפילות ובקשות, זהו אדם שנתקלל מעשרה שליטים. He's putting himself at the mercy of negative energies, basically laziness, calculations, manipulations, anything that is basically making the shape of this physical reality, right? Like 99% of this physical reality is made of bad influence. And I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about energies, I'm talking about angels, I'm talking about all sorts of forces out there that we are not innocent. It's like they've been created with our help for generations and generations. Even today, for the 120 times that I got reactive, I contributed to all those negative energies to become more powerful today. Yesterday, I was in a better mood, so I created some positive angels. Yes. זהו אדם שנתקרב לעשרה, והם 10 שליטים אשר היו בעיר. And so those 10 influences were in the city, אלו הם 10 שממונים על הפורשים ידיהם למעלה, לקבל התפילה ההיא או הברכה וההיא, ונותנים בו כוח לכבד את השם הקדוש, ומתברך למטה. כיוון שמתברך למטה ומפריר ידיו למעלה, אז מתברך למעלה והתיקר מכל הצדדים. And so it mentions here the person who actually raises his hand in prayer and intention. And so again, I want to extract from this passage the part where we are injecting consciousness and intention, kavanah in everything that we do. Because the moment that we inject intention, we are awakening those forces that are not just protecting us, they are empowering and they are enriching our asking and our prayers in this world and in the upper world. And as it is being brought in front of the Kisei HaKavod, the high seat of the Creator, that is the way that we are hiring up our chance to get our prayers answered, when we are consistently injecting intention. But everything has a mirror, an opposite mirror, meaning that if I'm not taking something that has a potential to reveal light and manifesting it, then the exact opposite happens. So what does it mean? And it's not to scare anybody, it's just the way that things are. So in other words, let me take, use a metaphor. We speak on Rosh Hashanah about the annulation of the vows. So the cancellation of the vows. And we're not always very conscious of the vows that we make every single day. A vow is not, I vow to you that next week we will have a class bli neder. It is just a word that you say, oh, let's have coffee, or promising to yourself that tomorrow you're going to start a diet, or that you're going to get on the treadmill, and then you get lazy, or another priority took over, whatever you promised to yourself, which, by the way, could have been like an inside discussion that you had with yourself. So when you're making a promise, it's not necessarily a promise to somebody else. It can be like just an inner conversation that you had with yourself, and you tell yourself, convincing yourself, that's it. This is the last spoon of ice cream. Tomorrow I'm starting the diet. Tomorrow morning comes up and forgot about it. I didn't exactly forget about it. It's not a big deal. I just ate a pint of ice cream. I'll go on the treadmill tomorrow and then I'll lose what I ate. And then tomorrow comes and you're not going on the treadmill. You get the idea, right? So the energetical process that happens is that when I'm making a subtle, very just known promise, I'm creating a vessel. That vessel is an energy packet that has the potential to manifest. And so how do we know that, by the way, that you're creating a vessel when you're making a promise? So you can take an example when you're promising something, to somebody that this person wants, right? So you can be like to a child or to an adult child, or to somebody that's gonna, if you're gonna tell me, let's go on Sunday to the casino. I love going to the casino. I hate playing because I'm a sore loser, but I love going to the casino. That's why I'm not going, because I'm a sore loser. But anyway, but if you tell me, hey, let's go on Sunday to the casino, I'll be so excited. And I would be looking forward to Sunday to go to the casino. Where do we get the energy of excitement? Where do we get that energy? It didn't happen yet. It's like 3-4 days away from now. So it didn't manifest yet. So where do you get the energy of excitement for something that didn't happen yet? So if I surprise you with a gift, and it's something that you really want, and you open, first of all, the surprise is going to make you happy. And then you open the box and you realize it's actually a gift that you were looking forward to receive. And so you open it, it's filling you up with so much light and so much contentment and happiness and joy and whatnot. Now, imagine I'm telling you, on Sunday, you're going to get exactly the same gift that you were looking forward to receive 3 months back. You're going to experience in that moment that I'm telling you that you're going to get it on the exact same level. So scientifically, it's interesting, just to do your research. There was a study, I think it was Yale, whatever, I might, mix the name, but it was in a university, well-known university, between, 2 groups, one group that is eating chocolate and another group that is imagining, closing your eyes and imagining eating chocolate. the way that they are, retrieving all the data and graphs and whatnot from the two groups give exactly the same result. The brain translates on the level of fulfillment and joy and excitement and pleasure the same way as if you were putting the piece of chocolate in your mouth or imagining that you were putting the piece of chocolate in your mouth. Same translation. How does it explain? I'm not sure. It just does. But this is also an explanation for us, or an understanding for us, that if I'm telling you that you're going to get on Sunday something that you were looking forward to receive, or that you were looking forward to experience, you're going to experience right now the same energy of contentment and pleasure as if on Sunday you were stepping your feet on that place physically. Your brain, your mind is going to have exactly the same translation. So we're not so much necessarily interested in the physical aspect or scientific aspect. Where is that energy? Because at the end of the day, pleasure and happiness, fulfillment, it's an energy, not just like the mental, rumbling of what we're discussing. It is an energetical translation. And when we're making a promise, when I'm telling you on Sunday you're going to get such and such, you just created an energetical vessel that you're tasting from. You can already borrow from that vessel just by this person making you the promise, on Sunday we're going to Disney World. Some of you might not care, but maybe there is something that you're looking forward to experience, to taste, or to go for on Sunday. I mean, maybe some of you it's to go to Paris, maybe some of you it's to just stay at home and for 24 hours do nothing, and you'll be looking forward to it. Each person has his own thing, that his vessel is of contentment and fulfillment is going to signify something different. But again, the power that I have to create energy just with my words, if I'm making a promise, so imagine if I'm using those words as opposed to gossiping, talking politics, imagine how much positive energy is being created, is being generated if you're just like looking what's going on. How much positive energy? Close to none. Same for all the social media, news outlets. They've tried many times, either a paper outlet or online newspaper that try to report only good stuff. Only good stuff. They bankrupt 3 months later. Why? Because people don't buy good news. What sells the most is nonsense. That's what sells the most. And so this is why this is the realm of, the king of this physical kingdom, that is the opponent, Satan, whatever you call it, that is the desire to receive for the self alone. The desire to receive for the self alone is not seeking, is not looking to raise consciousness. And so this is why it's so hard to get on a diet and to stay on it. It's so hard to be spiritual and to stay on it. It's so hard to do charity work and to stay on it. Why? Because the 1% has, what is it that we say like in basketball? It's like the home court. You play in your own court. This is what we do. We play in the court of the opponent. So it is always more challenging. But wherever there is a challenge and an opportunity, a conscious effort where you're going to inject light, consciousness, intention, this is the reward. The reward is והם 10 שליטים אשר יהיו בעיר, you awaken these forces, these dominant positive forces, אלו הם 10 שממונים על הפורשים ידיהם למעלה. They are designated and dedicated to those that are raising the hand with intention, לקבל התפילה ההיא, to receive their prayer, או הברכה, or the blessing, the prayer that they were asking for, ונותנים בו כוח, and they are enriching, they are empowering, לכבד את השם הקדוש, ומתברך למטה. And so they're empowering those prayers in the upper world, ומתברך למטה, and they manifest down here in the physical. So all we have to do is to raise our hand with intention. So don't go out in the street and raise your hands and walk out like this, right? People are going to be like, where are the cops? That's not the point. It is about injecting intention in every physical action, word, thought that we use on a daily, on a momentary basis. כיוון שמתברך למטה, מפרישת ידיו למעלה. And so, everything that is down below is being blessed by the actions that has awakened all those blessings in the upper world. אז מתברך למעלה, והתיקר מכל הצדדים. ואלו 10 ממונים, מזומנים לקבל הברכות שלמעלה, and so those 10 forces are designated and invited to receive those blessings in the upper world, ולהוריקם למטה, and to project them down here, ולברך להוא שמברך לו, and to bless back the person that brings about to the upper world those blessings, שכתוב ואני אברכם, that is written, and I bless you. בשביל זה, ישמור עצמו בן אדם בשעה שמרים ידיו למעלה, and so this is why it is important to observe our intention when we do an act, when we do an action, שיהיו בתפילה או בברכה או בבקשה, that it be in a moment of prayer, asking or requesting, ולא ירים ידיו בחינם, and would not raise his hand in vain, משום שאלו 10 ממונים, because those 10 forces, those 10 angels, הם מזומנים, because every time that we do so, we're inviting those forces, ומתעוררים אל פרישת ידיים ההוא, and they are awakened every time that we do an act, they are awakened, ואם הוא בחינם, and if it is going in vain or in waste, 10 האלו מקללים אותו. And those 10 forces, like we said, if we're not optimizing the potential of an action, of a word or intention, the mirror, the opposite mirror is taking effect. So instead of those 10 forces reinforcing and taking and traveling, bringing those blessings to the upper world and projecting them full force on us, reinforcing and reaching them with what they were designated for, they become the opposite. So if we're taking our actions, our words, our intentions, and we use them in vain or in waste, we say ruach shtut, for example, then those forces are using them basically against us. 10 אלו מקללים אותו ברמ"ח קללות. Lots of, I won't go into that. וזהו שכתוב, ויהב קללה ותבורו. Okay, so let's just keep the positive side of the story. I don't want to get into what the Zohar is discussing when we are not putting intention, which unfortunately is what we do most of the time. Now, the fact that the Zohar is using this contrast is not to scare us. The fact that the Zohar is using this contrast is to bring us to a better level of awareness. That first we have the power to surround ourselves with the energy of mercy. We're not victims, and things don't happen to us when we wake up and things don't go our way. We're in a bad mood. I have a headache, I have this, I have that, things are aggravating me, like I have like a short fuse and whatnot. I have the power to change those things if on a momentary basis, I am injecting intention. I am injecting intention in every thought and in every action. And so the same as the most obvious is when, is when we pray. But I notice it for myself, after I've prayed like a gazillion times. I remember that I used to, maybe like the first few months that I was a student in the center, I used to do the Ana Bekoach, and I literally used to see angels. And when we were doing the Ana Bekoach, as we say the Ana Bekoach, I used to feel high, as if I just smoked a joint. And I'm not into drugs, I'm not a smoker. But I know the feeling. And every time I would do the Ana Bekoach, so this is why I loved doing the Ana Bekoach. Every time I would do the Ana Bekoach, I felt high. But like anything that becomes a habit, the level of appreciation and experience diminishes with it. So when you repeat something and you stop putting in that intention, that experience or the full extent of the gift that it can offer you diminishes. Here, we're talking maybe about the most obvious, which is a prayer, that if you do it repeatedly, scanning the Zohar, the 72 names, just any prayer that you would do, if it is repetitive and you've been doing it for the last 20 years, think about it. Are you injecting as much intention as you used to, like the first 6 months that you were praying? Anything that has a repetition is at the mercy of the 1% opponent, because repetition, habit, is just a synonym of Malchut. It's a synonym of the 1% physical reality. To do things in repetition and to keep the consciousness, intention, is the hardest thing to do. So this is why today they say, like in marriage and business, you always have to repeat, you always have to reinvent yourself. There are some people that, what is the expression, that they renew their vows? Why do you have to renew your vows? You did it like 30 years ago. You have to renew your vows, not just like on a literal meaning. Renew your vows every year, every 6 months. Recommit to what it is that you are for the long run. Because if it becomes a habit, you stop appreciating. You stop looking forward for new ways to enrich, to gift, to share, to make the experience better, not just for the other person, but for everybody around you. So sometimes my wife reminds me, oh, when we were dating, flowers, restaurant, and this, like the kind of like amount was different than it is today. It's true, by the way. When you're courting someone or something, it doesn't have to be like your marriage. It can be like a new job, or it can be a new friendship. At the very beginning, in order to earn it, you need to go the extra mile. But once you feel that it's in the pocket, do you still do as much effort? Think about it. We just want to raise here one aspect, one takeaway. Where in my life, in what I'm doing, and as many times as you can to think about it, in what aspect, in what direction, in what angle. Wait a second, am I injecting intention right now? You're going to eat with your spouse or with your kids. Do you inject intention? You're eating breakfast, you're drinking coffee, you're sitting for a 5-minute break. Do you inject intention? You're spending times with your parents, and it's just like another, like I'm gonna speak to my mom, and it's gonna be like, like just one of those like 20,000 times. I don't want to go like the morbid way. Some people like to do that, but it's it's like it has also like a valid point. The valid point is, what if it was the last time? What if that was the last time that you were going lunch with this person? Then we start, look at, wait a second. First of all, what are you talking about? I'm going to see this person next week and the following week and the following week. We live in Malchut. We live in the 1%. Somebody crosses the street and poof. Somebody goes like in the wrong place at the wrong time and gets COVID. And like, especially like with the new strain, people get it and 3 days later, they're gone. Like, we don't know who and what is going to be here tomorrow in 6 months. We know nothing. So again, like I said, I don't want to depress anybody. It's depressing, although, we don't need to make any effort. It's such depressing times. But if we can just inject intention, and by injecting intention and prayer and desire, what is your desire? What is it that you really, truly want? And what actions do you do towards it? And so I'm doing my 9-to-5 job. For me, it's a little bit more, like maybe 20 hours a day between this and this and that. But do I inject intention into it? As I'm speaking to you, I realize like the countless of opportunities that I could inject a little bit more intentions, and I'm not, because I have like all these emails and all these like messages and WhatsApp and FaceTime and all the, like, it's like all over. Like I said, I have like 3 screens on my desk. And I have like all these people that need something and want something and asking, and this project and that ask and that demand and that, I'm super busy. So super busy does not mean revealing light. Think about it. This is what the 1% loves, keeping you busy. It's better 1 hour that you spend a day with intention than 20 hours of being busy with so many different things, of things that you must do, of things that you need to complete and accomplish. But do they raise consciousness? Not necessarily. That you inject intention? Not necessarily. You got to do it. There's so many people depend on it and need it and whatnot. So just to keep this in mind, I think it's very valid. And again, there is so much more to talk about in the portion of Yitro, but I invite you to read the Zohar and to listen to lessons online and whatnot. And I just hope that this brought a little spark that could make a little difference in your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Yehuda.
Thanks, Yehuda.
You're welcome.
Amazing
Thank you.
class.
Thank you. Bye-bye.